على محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Very important story in understanding the whole idea of these mental constructs. And it's related to this reality that sleeping or dreaming and living the worldly life, these two essentially or substantially they're the same reality. It's just in one of them it takes a few hours, in one of them it takes a few years or a few decades rather. But it's the same reality here. Now this story is going to highlight this, and then we'll link it with i'tibarat, inshallah it'll all fall into place. So there was a man, and let's call him A, and he goes to the public baths. In those days they used to have them, especially in the East, the public baths where they would go. And they took him to his cubicle, and he went there, and he slept in the cubicle of the public bath. This story can get a bit tricky sometimes, but you have to follow it carefully. So he enters the cubicle and he sleeps. This person A, in his sleep, he sees that he's in the same public bath, and then someone enters the same public bath. He's now dreaming. So he sees himself, person A, in his sleep, in the public bath, and someone enters, let's call them person B, the same public bath, in his dream. And then this person B looks exactly like person A. He's a copy of person A in his dream. But here he sees that this person B, on entering the public baths, everyone is respecting him incredibly. With him, he was deemed a very normal person when he entered the public baths. But when person B, in his sleep, is entering the public bath, everyone is paying a lot of respect to person B. But it was of interest for him that person B looks exactly like himself. So he said this person B has to be someone very important. So he said, let me go towards the cubicle of person B and see who this person is. So he approaches the cubicle of person B, and lo and behold, person B is found dead. And person A is seeing this. When he sees that person B is dead, this is all in the realm of dreams, he says, well, he was someone very important. Let us change our clothing. So he put the clothing of person B on himself, and in his own clothing he put on person B, and he took person B's body into his own cubicle, person A's cubicle, and he went into the cubicle of person B. And now everyone would think that this person A is in fact person B, and that the person who's dead is person A, whereas in reality it's person B who's died. Sorry, it's getting complicated, but everything okay? Yes? Okay. So now, in the clothing of person B, person A is living. And what happens is that, it's going to be very difficult for those who have just entered to follow from the, if with your permission, I'll just go through the story again, because otherwise they'll be totally confused. Right, yes. So, the point was that the reality of dreams and the worldly life, the reality is the same. In dreams it's a few hours, in sleep. The worldly life it's a few decades. And then the Sufis, they highlight a story explaining this. They say there was a person A who goes into a public bath, and he goes into the cubicle and then he sleeps. In his sleep he sees himself in the same public bath in his sleep, and he sees someone entering person B who's an exact copy of person A in his sleep. But everyone is respecting person B a lot, whilst person A didn't receive that respect. Out of curiosity, he goes to the cubicle of person B, and then he sees person B is dead. So he changed the clothing of the two, so everyone now thinks that he is person B, whereas he's person A. And therefore he will be a recipient to all that respect and prestige. Whereas he changed the clothing and person B is in his clothing, everyone will think that person A is dead. So, continuing the dream, when he's finished with the bathing and everything, because he was an exact copy, the two looked exactly the same in the dream, then everyone paid a lot of respect to him, took him to the door, brought him transport. It was all respect. He had a lot of honor, a lot of prestige. Then they took him to his house. He had a very large house. Then he realized that he had a lot of certificates. He had a lot of, children, wives, and so on and so forth. Everyone respecting him so much. All the respect was ongoing and ongoing. Suddenly, someone hit him behind the head and said, "Wake up, it's almost lunchtime. You've been sleeping all this time." It was all a dream. Respect was a dream. Prestige was a dream. That honor was a dream. The certificates were a dream. The spouse, the children, it was all a dream. And all these things, as we've discussed in the last 3 nights, they're i'tibarat, they're mental constructs. And it was all, he woke up and he said, it was all a dream. الناس نيام إذا ماتوا انتبهوا. People are asleep. When they die, they awaken. And when they awaken, what do they say? All those 70 years, it was a dream. What do they say that? We were dreaming all those 70 years in that worldly life, because we were drowned in the mental constructs. Family, wives, husbands, spouses, siblings, parenthood, certificate, prestige, job, salaries. All these were all mental constructs, were i'tibarat. And we were drowned in them. Like that person who was dreaming and then suddenly woke up and said, "Oh, good grief, all that was a dream." The same is going to happen to us. Exactly the same. So, this dreaming and the worldly life, essence-wise, they're the same reality. Therefore, we should not get drowned in the i'tibarat and see beyond what the i'tibarat are representing. The reality upon which the i'tibarat are based upon. But if you just look at the i'tibarat qua i'tibarat, that is called in Quranic terminology the worldly life. And if you get drowned in that, yes, you've been sleeping all this time. So, things like my certificate, my spouse, my children, I did this, I did that, I acquired that. All these are i'tibarat. It's only when we free ourselves from these attributing to ourselves things which are not ours in reality, only then we succeed in spiritually wayfaring. And that's why Allama Tabatabai has mentioned this in the first chapter of his treatise in spiritual wayfaring. That's the importance of i'tibarat. So we don't get drowned in it. But if we get drowned in it, yes. In the Quran now, one or two verses which highlight this. وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ. This worldly life is nothing but diversion and play. It's a diversion because it's diverting you to reach that end goal that we've been speaking about in the last few nights. That spiritual objective of ours, our potential. But if you get drowned in the worldly life, which now we've discussed as being the i'tibarat, it's going to be a diversion. And also it's a game. Lahu is diversion, la'ib, it's a game. And la'ib in Arabic it's referred to a sequence of actions whose objective is imagination. A sequence of actions whose objective is khiyal, imagination. It's no reality. In addition to that dream, look at how children play. When they play, for example, when they're very young children, when they play with their toys, they assign one of the toys as the father, one of the toys as the mother. They assign one of the toys, who's the father, with a job. You know how they play with all these things. And now, with these Nintendo games and everything, there's games like Sims, where there you're creating family life there. But it's all these mental constructs that is happening. And then suddenly the mother, the father, they call the child, it's time for lunch, and then it all goes away. All those constructs in that game that they were playing with the mother, father, job, this, that and the other, it all vanishes. That's the reality of i'tibarat. That's the reality of the worldly life. It's all imagination. But these i'tibarat are based on a reality. That reality we have to have access to whilst living in this worldly life. But if we suffice with the i'tibarat, if we suffice with the worldly life, we're defeated, spiritually at least. وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا, chapter 29, verse 64. وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ. This worldly life, sufficing with the i'tibarat, it's all diversion and play. وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ. But the abode of the hereafter is that true life. You see, here, the abode of the hereafter is used in opposition to the worldly life. But that's true life. And that is accessible to all right now, here in this world. It doesn't have to be when we die. That true life can be acquired in this world. You can undergo with awareness your hereafter right now. Lo kanu ya'lamun. If only they had known. Lo, if. It's the impossible if. Most people won't get to know. They can't get to know because they're so drowned in the i'tibarat. It's impossible for them to know. Okay. Then there's another verse. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Most people, they know the zahir, the outer aspect of the worldly life. وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. But in relation to the hereafter, they're oblivious. They're not attentive to the hereafter. They know the zahir of the worldly life. They know the i'tibarat from beginning to end. They're very familiar with that. But when it comes to akhirat, the hereafter, they're oblivious. Here, hereafter is used in opposition to the zahir, the outer aspect of the worldly life. It shows the hereafter is defined as the batin of the worldly life. You see, It's very delicate wording here. The hereafter, according to Quranic terminology, means the batin, the inner dimension of the worldly life. And therefore it exists right now. And these i'tibarat are meant to be a conduit to the batin. But if you just suffice with the zahir, you've lost the battle. You've lost the jihad. But most people are ghafil, they're oblivious. In Arabic, when you're oblivious to something, that something exists right now. But you're oblivious to it. You're neglectful. You don't see it. You don't experience it. You don't witness it. But it exists right now. The hereafter exists right now. The batin, the inner reality of this worldly life exists, upon which the worldly life is based upon, exists right now. Heaven, hell, everything. But we're oblivious to it. We just suffice with the i'tibarat, with these mental constructs. Now, when Allah brings religion to the people and the prophets speak to the people, they speak in the language of i'tibarat. They have to do that because that's what people know. That's what me and you know. We only know the language of these mental constructs. We don't know any other language. But when the language of religion comes as such, it wants you to then travel beyond it. This is only a conduit, a transition to that batin and reality. But if you suffice with the zahir, no, you've lost the battle. We have a tradition that reads, Inna awliya Allah, verily the disciples of Allah, the lovers of Allah, humul ladina nadaru ila batin ad-dunya. They are those who are attentive to the batin of the dunya. إِذَا نَذَرَ النَّاسِ إِلَى ظَاهِرِهَا. When most people, they just are attentive to the zahir of the dunya. But they're attentive to the batin. They transcend the zahir. So, when it comes to salat, for example, salat, the way the Quran says salat is wajib, for example. When the Quran says that salat is wajib, you have to do salat, that's an i'tibar. The reality of salat is a set of actions. And these actions have a particular manifestation in the hereafter. Those actions are constructed as salat. Although you can't point to salat. Salat is a construct. The Quran is speaking in the language of i'tibarat here. That which you can point to is a sequence of actions. Bending in ruku, sajda, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to salat, do you just suffice with the i'tibar of salat and say, I did my salat, that's it. I'm now a good person, finished. Do you become complacent with just doing a set of actions? Or do you want to get to the batin of what this salat is supposed to represent? Do you get to the batin of these physical actions? As-salatu mi'rajul mu'min. Oh, it's different now. Salat is the mi'raj of the mu'min. The reality of salat is undergoing ascension before Allah. Now all your life, you just suffice with bending down and going into prostration. Without tasting anything of the ascension, you're drowned in the i'tibari life without a doubt. You've sufficed salat, you've sufficed with the i'tibari aspect of it. You knew the zahir of the worldly life, but the batin you were oblivious to it. You never tasted salat. With du'as, you keep on doing du'a, and these are just verbal statements, or have you reached and attained to the essence of what du'a is? If you remember the first or second lecture, we talked about this. Or actually, maybe that was in the Farsi speeches, not the English speech. But it was inqita' ilallah, cutting off from everyone but Allah. إِذَا دَعَانِي, when they call me. Not an arbitrary form of du'a, where you just read a few words of supplication. And whilst you supplicating before Allah verbally, your mind is dependent on 1,000 other things other than Allah. Your hope, your reliance is upon other people. That's just a i'tibari dua. You never got to the batin of what the dua is. Or even hijab. Hijab has a reality, but you just sufficed with the zahiri reality of what hijab represents. And it's a form of covering. Now what the essence of hijab is, the fact that it is enhancing your chastity because of that unity between body and soul. When you cover certain parts of the body, for the man it's this part of the body, for the woman it's other parts of the body. When you're covering it, because of the unity of body and soul, you're covering the soul, enhances your chastity. Now you never think of chastity. You wear 10 chadors, but you may not be a chaste person. Because you just sufficed with the i'tibar, the zahiri aspect of the hijab. And now all you know is a problem. The way religion is put forward is problematic. And people, especially the youth, they don't accept it. Rightly so. Or, for example, with the Quran, we suffice with the zahir of the Quran, and that's it. But the Quran, it says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. Yes. Sorry, brother, if you can give the... Sorry, yes. If possible, yes. Sorry, yes. Yes. Because, I think from nursery to... That's okay, yes. To school, to university, they never do such a thing. It shouldn't suddenly be made custom in the center when words of religion wants to be given, yes. But if anyone is free just to go out and they can have their cake then, yes. With the Quran, sometimes the Quran says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. Sometimes the Quran says, هَذَا الْكِتَابِ. Are these demonstrative pronouns just willy-nilly? What does this mean? هَذَا الْكِتَابِ. Sometimes it says ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. Sometimes it says هَذَا رَبِّي. This Lord. Sometimes it says ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهِ. That Allah. What's the difference between this and that? In the realm of هَذَا, in the realm of this, it's the Zahiri realm. And we're drowned in this realm. But when it speaks of ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, that book, that's the Batini book. For that is the book. That you have to transcend the Zahiri realm. You have to flee the i'tibarat. That's difficult. And some translations, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, this is the book. Look how much meaning is lost. When you translate ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, this is the book. The translations you can't. These words in Arabic, you have to translate it as it is. You have to translate the verbs as it is. You can't just make up your own translation. You have to stick to the Arabic. It says ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, and you translate it, this is the book. That is the book. Yes, that is beyond. That is the book. It's difficult to attain to. The same with Imam. This Imam, that Imam. The Imams that we know is the i'tibari Imam that we've made. We know when he was born, when he died. That's it. It's a superficial understanding of the Imam. But do we have access to that Imam? And nazaru ila wajhi Ali ibadatun. Seeing the face of Amirul Mu'mineen is ibadah. Why? Is it just all those munafiqeen who saw Amirul Mu'mineen? Was it ibadah for them? They remained a munafiq. They died a munafiq. They saw Amirul Mu'mineen every day. Because they sufficed with the realm of Hadha, this Imam. But seeing the face of Amirul Mu'mineen isn't the physical face. Is his metaphysical reality. Either in dreams or whilst awake, you see with the same eye you see in your dreams, not the physical eye. And you can see the Imams. You can benefit from the Imams. Now you're reaching ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, ذَلِكَ الْإِمَامِ. And once you transcend and see them, you will benefit. But you, even if you know everything there is to know with the Zahiri aspects of the Imam, no, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. But we're always stuck in this Zahiri realm. And this causes problems. And there are many other examples like that. I'll just mention a few. In Aqa'id, in Tawheed for example, since we're drowned in i'tibarat, we interpret our Aqa'id in the i'tibari way. With Tawheed and with Allah, because of how we see leadership, which is one of the i'tibarat in this world, and how we view ownership, we say there's one Allah, and then other than Allah, separate from Allah, there are people, creation, animals, plants, people, whatever. And then, so we have creation on one side, separate from creation there's Allah, and then Allah is governing and controlling everything from above. It's because our being grossly infatuated in the i'tibarat, we come with this kind of understanding. Is it haram? It's not haram, no. But it is deficient. Just because the Imams may have explained it to a few elderly people or a few children in the traditions we have it doesn't mean that's the ultimate Tawheed. But this kind of separating haqq, separating Allah from creation, regarding them as mutually exclusive, that's limiting Allah. Nothing can be separate from Allah. Everything, whatever is a manifestation of Allah, is in unity with Allah. Since pre-eternity to post-eternity, not for a moment was Allah manifestation-less. If you regard Allah as manifestation-less, even for a moment, rationality has the right to say, I'm looking for something else. This idea that there's Allah and nothing else, then from nothingness Allah creates. That's limiting Allah. Once you limit Allah like this, the question becomes legitimate. Who created this Allah that you're mentioning? Because the way you explained Allah, you've regarded Him as a limited being. Because you said there's Allah, then nothing else. Then Allah created from nothingness creation. You've limited Allah. That Allah, that absolute perfection we want, not even for a moment can He be manifestationless, creationless. If you regard an Allah like that, rationality can say, I'm looking for a more perfect entity. This is a limited entity. And if something is limited, it has a cause. It's only the limitless entity which has no cause. And Allah is that pure existence, always was, always will be, has no beginning, has no end, first and last, has no meaning in relation to Him. But it's because of that being infatuated with the i'tibarat, we come up with these understandings. It's not haram though, but Tawheed has degrees, without a doubt. As long as one believes in one Allah, that is the red line. But this oneness can be explained in many ways. And those many ways, whilst all preserving the oneness of Allah, in relation to deficiency and perfection, they vary without a doubt. And that's why Tawheed is explained to some people in one way, and to other people another way. In chapter 39, verse 45. وَإِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ, when Allah is mentioned, وَحْدَهُ, alone. See, when Allah is mentioned, alone, only Allah. That true, perfect oneness of Allah. When it's mentioned, إِشْمَأَزَّتْ قُلُوبُ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ. The hearts of those who don't believe in Akhirah, they shrink with aversion. They become disgusted. But what does those who don't believe in Akhirah, what does that mean? Is it the Akhirah that we all assume it's when we die we enter it? No. Akhirat we've defined. Akhirat is the batin of the worldly life. Those who don't have Iman in relation to the batin, i.e. they're drowned in the zahir, they're drowned in the i'tibarat. When Allah is mentioned, إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ, since it goes against all their understanding of Tawheed, the i'tibari way, ishma'azzat, they're disgusted. What do you mean? What? They're explaining Tawheed to them, they become disgusted. What are you saying? Because of that deficient understanding of Tawheed they have. No, Muslims. Yes, it can be atheists too, because they also don't believe in the hereafter. But it applies to us also, because you can be a Muslim drowned in the zahir of the worldly life, but anil akhirati hum ghafilun. You're totally oblivious to the hereafter, the batin of the worldly life. In the Quran, a third of the Quran is in relation to the hereafter. But we've understood the hereafter wrong. We've taken hereafter only the zahiri aspect. The hereafter means the batin of this worldly life. It's the batin. It's right now, it's here. Do we have Iman relation to it? No, because we haven't tasted it yet. Our Iman is an academic Iman. It's neither reflected in our actions, or neither do we see or experience anything right now. These people who don't taste the hereafter now, when you speak about true, khalis, pure oneness of Allah, they become disgusted. What do you mean? What are you saying? Astaghfirullah, you're a kafir. This wahdatul wujud that the Urafa bring, that's why they face all these problems. They face problems from people who are stuck in the worldly life, and they interpret Tawheed in a very zahiri manner. That what their Tawheed isn't haram in any way, but it's certainly deficient, the way they explain Allah. Does that mean those who believe in Wahdatul Wujud, they're better than them? Of course not. Those who believe in the Zahiri Tawheed in action, they may be much better than those who just academically believe in Wahdatul Wujud. But Wahdatul Wujud, if it becomes incorporated in the heart, no. That's another level. They are the Mukhlasin. Not even Iblis has any jurisdiction over them. We went through that. Once again, that was in the Farsi speech last night, not in the English. Yes, they shrink with aversion, because they're drowned in the i'tibari understanding of religion, of our article of faith. وَإِذَا ذُكِرَ الَّذِينَ مِن دُونِهِ. But when other than Allah is mentioned, when that oneness is contaminated with other than Allah. Now that can be in many ways. It can be in that oneness is compromised, that true oneness that the Wahdatul Wujudis believe in, that can be compromised, or it can be compromised ethically. I'll come to examples of that. But when it's compromised with other than Allah, when that oneness is compromised, إِذَا هُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. There they rejoice. They're happy. That's what they understand that. In the realm of ethics, this has a lot of implications. Sometimes you tell someone, look, for Allah's sake do this. They say, no. What do you mean? They shrink with aversion. No. What do you mean for Allah? But when you say, it's a good deed, but when you do it for Allah's sake, give charity for Allah's sake, only for Allah. Build this hospital for Allah's sake. No, they don't do it. But then say, okay, build this hospital for heaven. Give this charity so that this burden goes. Oh, they give a lot of money then. Yeah, they give a lot of money. They want the heaven. Or build this hospital and we'll put your name on top. Yes, they'll do it. But build this hospital for Allah's sake alone, not for Allah. No. Tawheed becomes sensitive. It becomes very delicate. And we see this in all articles of faith. For example, in Ma'ad, in Imamat, in Shafa'at, in Tawbah, in Dua. You go through all these in religion. The thing is, when Allah speaks, when the Prophet speaks to us, they speak in the language of i'tibarat. That's the beginning. But we have to get beyond that. We have to get to the batin of these i'tibarat, the akhirat. And we have to do it before dying. We have to do it in this world, before dying. Mutu qabla an tamutu. Die before you die. Die a spiritual death before you die a physical death. And that spiritual death is when you transcend. Whilst living in this world, you transcend to the batini realms, the metaphysical realms. And there true life will be acquired. For example, in Ma'ad, in resurrection, because of how we're drowned in the constructs of sentencing in this world and fining in this world, someone drives, they speed. Speeding is one action. Because of the fact they speeded, we arbitrarily, conventionally assign a fine. Now, that fine has no relationship with the speeding. It's an arbitrary, i'tibari construct of ours. But there's no relationship between speeding. There's no natural relationship between speeding and fining. But that's, since we punish people like that, we fine felonies like that, then when it comes to religion, we interpret religion like this. And what's the result? You do sins in this world. Nothing is happening to you. One day in the future when you die, they take you to a place. Then a red monster comes. And this red monster burns you and whips you. But that red monster is someone else, another entity other than you. And then you say to the monster, why are you whipping me? He said, I'm whipping you so then you go to heaven. But what if that person said, I don't want to go to heaven? Will you stop whipping me? How are you going to answer that? You can't answer it. The whole idea of Allah punishing has been taught wrongly. Why would Allah have to punish? Why does Allah need to punish? You didn't pray, then Allah punishes you. Why? Is it out of Allah's anger? Yes, like in this world, when we are angered with someone, we punish them. See how we are looking at religion? But the reality of Ma'ad is that you are your actions. Heaven and hell are your actions. There's no one outside you punishing you. You're punishing yourself. But these actions that you're doing, these actions, as you're doing these actions, you're being burnt. We have this in many verses of the Quran. As you're committing X sin, you're being burnt. Or you're being punished in another way. But that action is the punishment. There's a natural relationship between the two. Action is that punishment. It's not something mutually exclusive to the action. That punishment is the action. In chapter... Actually, I haven't written the verse here, sorry. But I think it's in chapter 36, yes. فَالْيَوْمَ, today and the hereafter, لَا تُظْلَمُ نَفْسٌ شَيْئًا. The soul won't be wronged at all. No soul will be wronged at all. Why? What's happening? وَلَا تُجْزَوْنَ. You won't be recompensed in the hereafter. إِلَّا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Save that which you did. In Arabic, in the Quran, in sentences where there's a article of exception, illa, except, if it's the illa, if it's preceded by a negative clause, that which succeeds illa is the very same thing as that which precedes illa. What's preceding illa? It's a negative clause. La tujzauna. You won't be recompensed, save that which you did. So, what succeeds illa is action, that which you did. What precedes it? Jaza. La tujzauna. Jaza. Your amal, your action is your jaza. It's just that you don't see yourself being burnt right now. In the hereafter, that will appear before you. But you're being burnt right now. That's the reality of the Quran. Because we're drowned though in the i'tibari way. No. We interpret ma'ad in the i'tibari way. And now you want to explain this to your children? Of course they won't accept. Okay, I think I've passed my time. Inshallah. We'll continue tomorrow. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala